Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to set up a physical inventory using zones in version 9 with Foundry logic. So basically, first you have your retail mobile manager. You want to make sure that's running. You want to download the newest update. So you go to File and then choose Import Data. That will go ahead and import all the new data for to make sure it's current. Otherwise, if you don't do this, you might not have all the current items that you've added. The second thing you're going to want to do is make sure if you're doing remote stores that you send all inventory in ECM. So I'll show you that while that is compressing the data. And if you're not on the same page, then you can have some problems with discrepancies when Retail Pro updates the physical. Retail Pro uses what is called differences, and differences allow you to send or to continue to make sales while you are running before you update your physical. So that's a nice feature there. Okay, so this is ECM. Inside ECM, you go into Stations, and then you go to your store. You click on Form, and under Profile Checklist, you go down into here. You choose Merchandise, and you're going to send all inventory, and then you're going to process out. After that's done, you're going to want to set that back to differences, so then you don't send all inventory every time. But this is a critical step in doing a physical for a remote store, is you are synchronizing the database between the main and the remote to make sure that you're on the same page, so the differences calculate properly. Again, differences allow you to continue to make sales while you are waiting to update your physical. So that's a really great feature. You don't have to stop what you're doing, but if you're not on the same page, it will cause problems. So this is super important. Send all inventory in ECM about a day or two prior to doing the physical, so then you'll make sure that everything processes in properly. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to set up your Retail Pro for zone physicals. By default, it's set to simple. I like to do zones because it's easier to prove exactly what's going on. You need to do this at every location as well. So go to Options, System Preferences, Local Preferences, and then Merchandise, PI Tool, and Options. We want to set this to Zone Physical. So this will allow us to do zones, and then we can go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and update this, and then we will start our physical. In order to use the Foundry Logic scanner, it needs to be set up properly in Retail Pro so it will talk to your Retail Pro installation. So we got to go to Options, Workstation Preferences, and then you go to Peripherals and Inventory Scanner. In here you want to set this to Palm SPT 1800 and update. That will allow you to talk to Retail Pro using the Retail Mobile Manager software. In here, this should have been set up properly in your configuration, but I'll show you quickly. If you don't have this set up properly, it's not going to work under Edit here. We want to make sure, like this would not work for me right now. This workstation number has to match your Retail Pro workstation number right here. Otherwise, it doesn't know what files to import. So each person can have Retail Mobile Manager running. You could run this on 5 machines, and each one would know that I'm workstation 22, workstation 1, workstation 5, whatever, and those are the files that I will import into my session of Retail Pro. So that's really important there too. So choose OK, and then connect. And then I would close out of this and restart Retail Mobile Manager, so then everything picks up properly. Usually people will put a startup menu. I probably should have put this here. I like to pin it to the taskbar for clients that use it. Now you can just click on that, and now it'll restart and connect, and we're good to go. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and upload inventory, and then let's go ahead and set up Retail Pro for doing a zone physical. Zone physicals, I think, are the easiest way to do a physical, because when you do a simple physical, it's hard to undo anything, or it's hard to keep track of what you've done. the way a zone works is basically you are going to, if you hire Regis, this is how they do a physical. You have a picture of your store, and this is how I always have done it. You draw a physical picture of your store, and you're going to say, you know, this is the front door here, and this is the warehouse area back here. And then I have a rounder here and a rounder here, and I have a counter over here, and then I have in the back, you know, shoe storage all back in here. So these are all shoes or whatever. So basically you draw a map of your store and you allocate zones to them. So this is zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, 6, etc. So once you have everything done there, then what I usually do is I'll pre-count, because if you were to pay to have a physical done and you don't like your numbers, you have to be able to prove why you came up with this number. So what I'll do is have somebody go without a scanner and just count this this rounder. So there's 50 items on this rounder, and then in here there's, you know, 60 items here, and then here there's 100 items, and then these shelves each have 400 items each. So you should be able to do the math and come up with a grand total of what your numbers should be. So in my example here, the total quantity of everything in this store would be 1,410 items after we update the physical. So we already know what our count should be, 1,410. As people bring you the scanners, if they don't match, you can have them delete it and recount it if they're severely off, stuff like that. So it really gives you a way to prove exactly what's going on with your physical. So I'm going to show you how to set that up next. So usually I do physically draw a map, and I will assign also people. So when they bring back their scanner, I'm going to say that Paul scanned this one, Kevin scanned this one, Wahid scanned that, Bradley scanned that, Sam scanned that, etc. So now you can even go back and ask people questions later if there's a issue. Hey, what was wrong with this zone? What happened here? And then you can actually kind of see what's going on. Okay, now that we've set our system preferences for zone physical, I'm going to go ahead and start one. So I go into merchandise, inventory. Your screens may look different than mine, but it's going to be the same areas. And you go to physical inventory and new, or stores, and then new. So it's going to take a picture of your inventory as it is right now. So let's see here. We are going to be doing the main warehouse. So I'm going to go ahead and call this PI name warehouse, and I'm going to create that physical. I can filter if I wanted to. So let's say I was only doing shoes, that would be like a cycle count, or toys or towels or whatever. You could do that as well and only start the physical for that department. But we're going to do the entire store. So I'm going to leave this clear. So I'm going to go ahead and choose OK. And that's going to start my physical. And then we're going to create a zone. So now if I go into here, you'll see there's really no, if I go into PI zones, there's nothing in here. So if I go to new, this is where I'm going to go off of that map that we talked about earlier. So if I have my map and my rounder is zone 1, I'm going to go type in new. Which store am I counting? The warehouse. Name, I'm going to call it zone 1. And you can even put notes, you know, rounder by the door, whatever. And then you can even put your pre-counts in here. So there were, you know, 40 items or whatever you want. So that is our zone. Okay. So now I've got my zone 1 in there. I'm going to go ahead and upload my counts from my physical. Okay, so I'm going to synchronize this device with my server here. So I go to menu, options, server. Make sure the IP address is the correct IP address of your server and test it. Okay, connection is okay. I'm now going to download the inventory from my server. So if I click on sync, it's going to ask me for a license. I say yes, and it's your sysadmin password. Okay, and it should log in and allocate a license. There we go. And now it's going to synchronize with my device. Once that's done, I'll be able to scan my inventory. Okay, my sync completed. It took about 35-40 seconds. I choose OK, and now I should be able to go and scan my inventory, and then I'll upload it into Retail Pro. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and scan some stuff into my zone. So once you have your store mapped out and your zones ready to go, just go into physical inventory here, and there's my information. I'm going to choose new, which is going to be my zone. Brings me into the count sheet. So now I'm ready. The name of this one is P7, the date and stuff like that. So I'm going to start scanning. I have a little count sheet here. I'm just going to start scanning some stuff just so you can see how it works. You'll hear the correct beep. It'll also display what you're scanning on the screen, so you know what you're doing it right or wrong. If you need to change the quantity, you can change that right there. So I'm going to change this to 10 and then enter. So now I scanned 10 of that one item, stuff like that. So now I'm ready to upload this. I choose back, save yes. Do I want to send this section, this zone? I'm going to say yes. I'm doing this all wirelessly over the wireless internet. And my zone has been sent and uploaded. So now we'll check Retail Pro next. Okay, we've scanned some items into our scanner. We've uploaded it to Retail Pro. How do we get it into our zone? So at this point, we've created our zone. Now we go ahead and go into Scanned. We've set it up in Workstation Preferences so it knows what device it's looking for. We made sure that our workstation is set properly in Retail Mobile Manager here. So basically, we just click on Add Counts. If all that's set up properly, we click on this. We go to Portable Device. And you're going to see down here, this starts to blink. This is your scan sessions from Retail Mobile Manager. We click on that. There's the PI that we sent for Zone 1. I say Select, and it's going to upload that into my zone. I choose Close, and there's my scans. So now all you have to do is do that for every zone over and over and over again, and then we update the physical. Okay, so let's talk about errors. What happens if there's a bad scan? So I've created a scan with 3 scans in it, 1 good scan, 1 bad scan, and another good scan. So we can see what happens here and how to fix that. So I'm going to go into Scanned, Add Counts, Portable Device, bring in my session. There it is. Select. Okay, we've got a bad scan. It's going to move it to the error view. So I choose OK and Close. So here's my 2 good scans. If I go back out to the zone, I can now see I have some bad scans. And what it does is it actually will put a good scan in front, and you can see the scan position. This was the first item I scanned, and then here's my bad scan. So what that lets you do is go back to the floor, and you can see you want to go to this adult long sleeve tee with this UPC. If there was an attribute in size, you'd be able to see it's blue and size extra large or whatever. You go find that, you bring that item with a proper barcode, or you look it up in Retail Pro, and then we resolve it. So to resolve this, basically you click on that, you choose Resolve. It's going to remove the bad scan, and now we have no errors. But we still are missing our scan, so we have to go back in here and add that scan. So if I go into Scanned, Add Counts, I'm going to go to Manual right here, and now I'm going to go ahead and scan that with my regular scanner. You could also create an error zone if you wanted to and just scan it into the scanner and then upload them all into one area, but I would prefer to put it in the zone where it came from. So I'm going to scan one of these, again, long sleeve tees. I have quantity 1, close. Now I've fixed my error. So that's how you can fix errors. Okay, so we've got a couple zones here. You can see there's no bad scans. I like to add these values here: good counts, bad counts, good scans, bad scans. So you can see everything's clear. There's no errors. We're good to go. We're also going to provide you with some reports. So if I go to here, I'm looking at Zone 4. I can look at the RIS zone report and look at that on screen here. That's going to kind of show me what was in that zone. You could print each one of these out for every zone, so then you again have a physical record of what happened to every zone. So again, you can prove your numbers, and that's super important. So if I back out of here and I go into the physical, you're going to notice there's nothing in the physical. It's going to be empty. Good scans, bad scans, total scans. That's because I haven't merged my zones. This is why I like zones, because zones are like a worksheet. You can do all of your fixing and everything first in the zone, and then as soon as you have everything done, then you merge it into your physical, and there's no editing or tweaking the physical at that point. So we're going to merge our zones. So if I go into my zones again, so I go back out here and I go to zones, physical inventory, zones, and I'm going to merge each zone. So I'm going to go to merge zones, or you can mark them actually if you want to, but I like to do them one at a time. If you mark them, it's going to mark them all, and then you go and merge them. But I like to just kind of double check that everything's good. So I'm going to merge this zone. Merge this zone. Do you want to do this? Yes. So now my zone 1 is merged. I'm going to do the next one. Merge zone. Yes. I'll show you marking the other two so you can kind of see how that works. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to say mark. What do you want to do? Select all. It's going to mark these two. Well, it can't do those because I've already done it. So I guess I should so if I say mark, select, and then mark and select. If I didn't have these already merged, I could have marked all, but they've already been merged. So now if I say merge marked, I can do it all in one step. But again, I like to do it one at a time. So merge marked. Yep. Cool. So now these are all merged. So now if I go into my physical, earlier you saw there were no good counts, bad counts, anything like that. Now everything is going to be in my physicals. If I go to my store, here's my physical. I have good scans, total scans. We want to add actually counts as well, because those are individual, how many I actually scanned, and this will show me how many actual units I have. So again, we kind of did that pre-count. So if I had that pre-count, this should say like 1400 or whatever we did in our map. So I had 45 individual items, but I had 54 total inventory items. So individual scans, 45 individual items, but some of them had multiple quantities. So I have a total of 54 that I'm going to update. So now I'm going to update my physical. I'm going to make my inventory correct. What we could do first, if we go into the warehouse, I can run a filter and you can kind of look and see what do I have. So if I go into options, let me go to my filter. Yep, I'm in the warehouse. If I say filter, show me anything from -9999 to -1. I'm going to pause this for a second. Okay, so we discussed showing you what I have in inventory first before I update, so you can actually see it all change. So I'm going to go into here. I'm in the warehouse. If I go to on-hand quantity, -9999 to -1, and you can see I have some negative numbers and positive numbers. This will show me just negatives first. There we go. So I have a bunch of negatives in this inventory, and then I'm going to go and show you positives as well. And after we update, we should only have 54 quantities at the end of my update. So I'm going to say 1 to 9999. So that's going to show me only positive items. There we go. Okay, so now let's update my physical. All of those numbers should go away. The only thing we should have is the 54 that I counted. So physical inventory, stores. I'm going to go into update PI. And reason PI is fine. What store am I going to update? This is the only one that's active, so I'm going to do that. This is super important here. All inventory is going to update everything that I counted and did not count. So if I did not count it, it's going to set it to 0. If I counted it, it's going to set it to the number that I counted. So if you did quantities only, it would only update for what you counted. People do this sometimes on accident and don't realize, like all those negative numbers you saw earlier. If I do quantities only, all those negative numbers will be there. All those numbers that I didn't count, they'll stay the same as well. It's only going to update the 54 that I selected, that I counted. So if you want to do a physical inventory and zero out what you didn't count, you always want to do all inventory. So very important here. So I'm going to go ahead and choose update, and it's going to update my physical. This will make a bunch of adjustment memos, so you can go ahead and track it. Paperwork wise, you have adjustments that you can write off on your taxes for loss or whatever. So There we go. We have a paper trail. So if I go out of here, I can show you those adjustments, and then we'll go ahead. Well, actually, first let's look at our filters. If I go into my filter now and run exactly that same filter, I'm going to have just those few items that are 54. So if I were to basically select this column and add that up, that's going to equal 54. If I go out of here and go into adjustments, you'll see my physical inventory adjustments that it created. So I have a paper trail of what happened. So here's my quantity for warehouse 1 of what I did and the units that it removed and cost adjustments, stuff like that. So that's where we would go over your report. So at this point, if I go back into my physical, we would want to look at some of those discrepancy reports and see how did we do. Most people don't like anything over a 3% shrink. So if your shrink is more than 3%, we need to do a little bit more looking at what's going on and perhaps some training. So if it is actually accurate that your physical is over 3% shrink, then we need to figure out why. Who's doing what? Is something being stolen? Are customers walking out with items? Are employees stealing? Is somebody not transferring properly? Are they using jackpot rows to sell? So sometimes when you see that, you're going to have overage in one area and shortage in another. So those are all things we can look at. So these numbers are super valuable. Even if you don't like your report number, you can look at these and kind of see what's going on. So first, if I did it just like this, this would show me the entire inventory. I really don't care about the whole inventory. I want to look at just the discrepancies, what was different. So if I click on this physical, click on discrepancies, this is going to show me where I went wrong. You can see already here, we started with 394, we counted 0, so we shrunk 394. So in this physical, I only counted 54 items. I'm going to have a pretty bad shrinkage number. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and go to let's do vendor by item, so it's going to sort it by vendor. Okay, so you can see here's a 90-page report. Basically, it has by vendor, my items, what I started with, what I scanned, what my differences were, what my on hand is now, what my cost is, and what my difference is in cost, what I shrunk. So if we go to the very last page, we're going to have some grand totals here. So basically, my grand total is I shrunk $1,057, and so I had a pretty bad inventory here. And then my counts are this: I counted 54 items, stuff like that. So you can see that there are some very, very good numbers in here that we can look at.